Thank you for doing this. You're not going to regret it.
Well, I'm pretty sure I will.
You can't give up, Mike. That's the important thing. Mike Huckabee supporters don't know the meaning of surrender.
No.
Because they were educated in the Arkansas public school system.
That was a good thing for us.
It was? Okay, Martha Raditz is going to be one of the moderators. Let's go over some of the questions she's going to ask you. She'll probably start with something like this. Governor Huckabee, if you become president, how quickly would you change the currency to silver dollar pancakes?
I think I would do that right away, and there would be a coupon for IHOP for every person who exchanges their current currency for those pancakes.
Not bad, but you need to steer your answers toward hurting someone else.
Oh.
Insults, that's what people want now. That's what Trump is doing. That's what you need to do. Okay, I'm going to help you, okay? Now try the first joke about Rick Santorum. Again, let me ask a question first, okay? I'm David Muir now. You've shown remarkable resilience in this campaign. How do you run a campaign over the sound of your employees typing their resumes? You see, because they're all waiting for their next job. Okay, so now you top that with a Santorum singer. Not going to do that one?
I think that's a little rough.
Let me read it. Let me see
Yes.
it.
There, you read that one.
Which is it? Yes. Well, I might be doing badly, David, but what about Rick Santorum? For a guy who hates sodomy, he sure is taking it in the ass this year.
Come on.
Try a Fiorina, okay? We're going to do a Fiorina.
Oh, I'm so happy to have with us today the legend, the great comedian, Robert Smigel.
You're talking about me. No, me. I'm here.
Oh!
Wait. Hold on.
Guys!
Seriously. You think I'm not going to get in on this AOL shit? I mean, I had to come up for a second at least. I mean, this is AOL. This is the big time. If this goes well, next stop, CompuServe.
Thank you, Triumph. It's very nice to hear.
I got 3 more, and then I'll go. No, seriously. Does anybody have AOL in the audience? Who watches AOL originals? Obvious. This is an AOL original. This is programming designed for senior citizens who died without disconnecting their dial-up internet in 1997. Yes. No, seriously, AOL, it's over, okay? I can give you the name of a veterinarian who took care of my grandmother. It was painless, 1 shot. No, AOL's going great. They've got a big plan to make more money, yeah. Yeah, tomorrow they're going to announce plans to merge with Radio Shack. How about a hand for this guy, Matt, right? Whatever
Ricky.
his name is. Fantastic. I like how they had one boring guy you don't know to introduce the next boring guy you don't know. That was crucial. That's the secret, because they think, how could it get more boring than the first boring guy? And then this boring guy doesn't seem as boring. It's nice to meet you, seriously. I don't think I've ever met a spam buyer. Blah. I blew the joke. Get it right. Get your act together, Jew. Matt, it's great to meet you. I never met a spam virus who could actually speak.
Ricky.
That was worth the wait. That was worth the wait, folks. Honestly, I feel like I'm visiting the early days of Apple here. Your black T-shirt or whatever, the look, it reminds me of a young Steve Jobs. And the stench of your kielbasa farts remind me of a young Steve Wozniak. But I'm done. You've been a great crowd.
Yes!
For
Give
me
it
to
up for
poop on.
Triumph!
Now here's me. Woo!
Give it up, guys, one more time.
How are ya?
Robert, thank you so much.
From the floor to the chair. Wait a minute, I'm getting a call.
And now he's getting...
It's restricted. I can't not take this. It says
Take
restricted.
it, take it.
How am I new? Well, I'll never know who it was if I don't
Speakerphone.
take it.
Speakerphone.
Hello? Oh, it's my mother. Mom, I'm on AOL right now. You're the only other person on the planet who has it. I'm on AOL right now. I'm doing something. You can stream it. Is everything okay? Okay, I'll call you right back. Okay, bye. In 20 minutes. I love you. Bye. Now you're turning off the ringtone?
On the ground.
Showing full respect?
I got to be honest, that it was kind of an honor to be insulted by Triumph.
It's sort of for your generation when somebody like Jeffrey Ross or one of these famous insult comics. For me, it was Don Rickles. I got to meet Don Rickles when I used to produce the Conan O'Brien show when I was younger. And whoop, whoop. And I got to meet Don Rickles. He was a guest. Actually, Triumph made fun of him. That's how I met him. But before the show, I was introduced to him, and he looked at me, and right away he just said, "Hello, Rabbi." And it was the thrill of a lifetime.
What did he think of Triumph's insults?
I think he was a little off-put. I think he was a really good sport, but I think he was like, "What the hell is going on?"
Right.
I mean, Triumph insulted him before Triumph did remotes or news. He did those reports from the field. Triumph used to be on Conan originally as the guy who would come out in the middle of the show after Conan interviewed the first guest, and Conan was a very funny, but he's always been very polite. And so he would have a guest on like William Shatner or John Tesh, and the audience, Triumph provided this catharsis for the audience where he would just shit all over the first guest Conan had.
Did you ever have a guest that didn't respond well to it?
Well, Rickles was a little confused, I mean, we're just like, because he'd never been roasted by, who's this puppet thing? What is this thing? And Triumph made a few insults, and then Triumph made a big turn like, "Rickles, I worship you. I worship the ground you poop on." And then he actually begged Rickles, poop on me, Rickles, I beg you. And Rickles wouldn't do anything. So then Triumph came back from below the stage. And this time his head was in a giant toilet. He's just surrounded by a toilet begging Rickles to poop on him. And Rickles was just like, "Nice dog." yeah.
Did you know that you were going to sort of have to turn, that Rickles might not get the insults, or did you sort of have it planned that?
Well, it's with victim humor like this, all that matters is the audience finding it funny. The audience was laughing really hard, so.
Who has been, I mean, okay. in this special on Hulu, which is amazing, it is so...
Have you guys heard about this special? I'm just curious. I just don't know if word's getting out. It's been a lot of clips on YouTube and stuff.
It's incredible. I watched it. It's like an hour and a half long,
yeah.
which is long. But I started watching it and I blew through it so
really.
Fast. Oh my God!
I figured
it's so funny
because I knew it was like longer than we even wanted it to be. But we just had a lot of material we liked, and I figured people would watch it in like 4 or 5, and then go take a crap, and then do something else. Watch 4 more the next day because it's basically a collection of remotes. We did this once before, like with every remote Triumph had ever done was on Netflix, like in one combined thing, like 90 minutes, and it did very well. So I thought, I guess people watch it different ways. And,
Now, you bring Triumph out to Trump rallies, to
yes.
Ted Cruz rallies,
yeah.
to, I mean, mostly Trump, Cruz, and not so much Rubio in this one, because I don't think he was sort of skyrocketing in Iowa yet.
We didn't get to Rubio. We got thrown out of a lot of places, too.
Really?
Yeah, well, in the beginning, I'm at a Rand Paul speech, and, some crazy Republican lady just points to the police like, "He's a disruption." And, yeah, I got thrown out, and people these people are coming to throw me out right now. I just got, I actually had done the Ted Cruz segment first, which is basically Triumph following Ted Cruz on his bus. He had a lot of them have buses, but Cruz makes a big show of like stopping at, 8 places in one state in a day, giving the same exact speech word for word. And it's like, the Cruz, it's like it should be called just the Cruiser, but he's got all these clunky names for it, the Cruisinator. I don't know what the hell he calls it.
I think it's like Cruise in America. Or
Cruise
like
in America. He tries very hard to, yeah. And they were not happy with Triumph following them everywhere, even though I deliberately wouldn't interrupt a speech. I wouldn't do that. I just felt like that's the line I didn't want to cross. But still, they were really pissed. And by the time I got to this other thing in New Hampshire, which was Rand Paul and a bunch of other people speaking, they were targeting me and throwing us out really fast.
I was wondering, I mean, there's a scene in it where you're at a Democratic caucus, I think. Is it the Democratic caucus in Iowa, excuse me? And you have a certain amount of access that I was really surprised by.
You're talking about
you're in
the
spin room.
Oh, yeah, this is the debate.
Yeah, the debate.
That was in
excuse
South
me.
Carolina, actually. And, yeah, oddly enough, the Democrats,
Can take a joke.
I think Republicans can too. It depends on who, though. But like the Democrats, we showed up in South Carolina to go to the Tea Party convention, which we did get thrown out from pretty quickly. So what we did there was we got some guys to dress up as veterans, as war veterans, and we just gave them the insults. To like, you know, so one guy gets access to Ted Cruz after his speech, and he's like, "Senator, I'm a big fan of yours. I love your sense of humor. You do impressions. You do a poo on The Simpsons. Oh, and I love your impression of an American." Because he's Canadian, you see. And Ted Cruz, like, you could see the face go from "I want to kill this motherfucker" to "he's a veteran" to "God bless you, sir."
They're very good. They're very
bless
good, and
you.
you see it in this special. They're very good at like reacting and stopping the reaction in the midst of reacting, right? You know, like
you mean if they don't want to look too angry or like they're laughing inappropriately?
like it starts and then they know how to shut down their face almost.
Yeah.
immediately.
There's one really funny moment at that Democratic one where I'm talking to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's the head of the DNC, and she's actually it's a great sport, and I had met her earlier in the day, and they were the ones responsible for letting us in there. Oh, wow. And she did this whole interview, and I'm saying horrible things to her, you know, talking about, you know, how she's favors Hillary, you know, I can't remember what's the worst thing I said. It was something like, oh, God. Oh, yeah, I made a horrible joke about, like, the worst joke, the most inappropriate thing Triumph probably said in the whole special. He said something like, you know, I'm worried that Hillary's doing well, but I'm worried that this email scandal will be her Achilles cankle, which is so wrong. I know it's wrong. But so Debbie Wasserman Schultz is trying to not laugh, and then there's a guy right behind her who's her aide who's just dying, and the camera hits him, and he's just hiding his face, trying to you know be anywhere but there.
Does Triumph have any political leanings, or is he just an equal opportunity offender? Does he find like Trump at this point, Trump and Cruz and some of those guys, maybe a little more disgusting than those on the Democratic side?
We're talking about Triumph now,
Triumph.
not the Jew up his ass.
Not the Jew
talking
up
about
his ass.
Triumph. No, Triumph. Like I'm kind of, you know, I lean a little left generally, and I think that's obvious if people like have seen my cartoons. But I really try hard not to put it heavily into the comedy, and especially not with Triumph, because I just feel like if Triumph starts to seem like he has an agenda, then it ruins the whole thing. And also, the reason I got into this year was just because I felt like there's so much great political satire going on, and I thought what Triumph could add was just the confrontational element. Like he's the guy who goes right up to people and makes things uncomfortable. But also, like, there's nothing, I don't take any of this seriously, and neither should Triumph. And, like, if I wasn't making fun of both sides, it wouldn't be worth doing. So, like, one of the things I was very happy with was that we went to University of New Hampshire. And
Oh, it's a great scene. I know with the
because
college
there
kids.
weren't enough, there are like 9 Republican candidates or more at the time when we were doing it, and only 3 Democratic candidates. So I knew that, and there were so many funny Republican ones. I mean, there are 2 sections just about Chris Christie, because how can you not? And
And the Ben Carson bit is unbelievable.
oh yeah, right. But that's less making fun of Ben Carson than just sort of, I mean, we pulled a prank on people in Iowa. You know, the other thing that attracted me to this whole concept was that the primaries, so much, the way they're laid out, there's such an inordinate amount of attention paid to 3 states that are tiny, you know, New Hampshire and Iowa, and to a slightly lesser degree, South Carolina. And I love the idea that these people see these candidates so often that they get sick of them.
So we had one idea where we went to, and these aren't necessarily representative of the entire country, these 3 states. For one thing, you know, South Carolina has a high minority, obviously, population, but not the other 2 states. So we thought it would be funny to go to Iowa and have Tim Meadows dress up as Ben Carson and just see if people in a diner would think it was really Ben Carson. And they did. They really did.
Even to the point where Tim Meadows takes it so far.
Tim Meadows was making every Ben Carson move way over the top. You know, he was like, I'm an outsider, and I think people want an outsider. I mean, I don't like to pretend that I know anything more about politics than you do. Honestly, I'm not even going to live in Washington, D.C. I've never been to Washington, D.C., he says. And then he says, like, don't you want an outsider? Like, when I'm on an airplane, I don't want a pilot, like a pilot who's flown 1,000,000 times and thinks there's, I want a fresh outlook on how to fly an airplane.
That was actually my
I want a
favorite
cockpit
line.
outsider.
That's my favorite
Yeah.
line in the whole special. I want a fresh take on flying. I thought that was
Someone
so
with
good.
fresh ideas about flying a plane. And the guy who's listening to him is like, trying to be polite.
But I got to ask, I mean, as much as you want to be an equal opportunity offender,
Yeah.
not the biggest fan of that phrase, but sorry, but you want to hit both sides.
Nonpartisan pooper.
There it is. That's good. That's better. But do you find that it's just a little bit easier to make fun of
Republicans?
than
Oh,
it
it's
is
easier to make
the
fun
left?
of Donald Trump. I mean, he's just funny. Well, Ted Cruz is hilarious too. But I mean, I think where comedians who claim to be even-handed get fairly criticized for is when they say, oh, I made fun of the Democrats too. But then and this is a fair complaint from Republicans, because usually when you make fun of the Democrats, like Bill Clinton got a lot of, but it was always about his sex life. It was always personality stuff. And like even in this special, I make some policy jokes about Bernie Sanders, but most of it is about how old he is. And it's like jokes like, I want Bernie to be that guy who gets that 3 a.m. phone call, because he's already up, spewing out his 4th pee of the night. So there were a lot of Bernie's old, and Hillary we hit pretty hard in that Debbie Wasserman interview.
But did you find when you were at the Trump rallies, I mean, watching Triumph at the Trump rallies,
Yeah.
interview Trump supporters
Yeah.
was funny, but also one
Terrifying.
of the most depressing things that I've
Some
seen
people
in a
have
long
said
time.
that, especially when we also did this prank, because I didn't want it all to be Triumph. So we did this thing where, because Triumph can't get access to everybody, he gets bitter with the press. So he dresses up like 4 blonde ladies, all to look like Fox News reporters. And they go to different rallies, not just Trump rallies, and they start spreading rumors. And people believe them because they're reporting them in front. Would you stand behind me while I do this report? And then it's like, these Carly Fiorina supporters sure are fired up, aren't you? Yay, they're all cheering. And even more so with the vindication Carly just received. We've just gotten this report that, indeed, Planned Parenthood in New York and California, they are distributing for high schools now manuals about fisting, offering fisting as an alternative to sex, and people are totally believed it, And then we would, and
But of course they do. They also believe that
they'll
Planned
believe
Parenthood is
anything a
selling-
reporter says in front of them. That's what I discovered. So we just played it way too far, What do you think of what Donald Trump said this afternoon about, Trump? The report is Trump gave a speech in which he said he has a plan to sterilize all Puerto Ricans, quote, until we figure this thing out, unquote.
That was really funny.
And the weird thing about that one was because we went to all these rallies. So the Fiorina supporters were like, that's Trump. And then they did go to a Trump rally, and this is probably where you got scared, because some of the guys at the Trump rally were like, I don't think he's going far enough. It was like shocking.
It wasn't just the responses like that. It was also the responses at Trump rallies that is you just hear this sort of inarticulate view of a past America that doesn't really exist and one that now that doesn't exist, and just kind of like, well, I'm a teacher, and like some woman says like, well, I'm a teacher, and teachers have been Republicans since the beginning of time, and you're like, what? What is that?
Since
come
caveman
from?
days, yes.
Caveman days.
No, I know there editing. It's editing too. I mean, they picked some of the dumber people to get the biggest laughs. But I have to say, in fairness, I think you do get a little bit of a distorted. I went to 2 Trump rallies, and I think there is a little bit of a distorted picture of how these people are. They're looked at as like this crazy, unruly, angry mob. And maybe it was because I was in Iowa, which is actually filled with a lot of cool, mellow people. But I found a lot of people who were kind of level-headed. They were blue-collar, and they were worried about jobs, and they took it seriously. They understood the difference in their minds between immigration and illegal immigration. They didn't seem like racists, Right. I just feel like the need to say that because, we did edit some of these pieces to look, at least that Fox one where, some of them looked like they were foaming at the mouth. And
Right, when you're shooting it, you had to have had moments where you're like, oh, that person's too level-headed for it to be in this.
Oh, yeah, I was like, why did we
Cut
do
'em
this
out.
in Iowa? Maybe if we had done this in another state, I would have gotten the crazy people that everyone imagines the Trump supporters to be.
Has there been a place where you haven't been able to take triumph yet that you want to bring him? I mean, elections, people like Ted Cruz or Donald Trump, that's incredible.
ISIS, I think, we'd like to go to it.
Baghdadi, you want triumph?
It's hard to get in there. It's hard. No, I don't know. I feel like, there's, something I wanted to do here back like 10 years ago. David Blaine was in a water tank. And it was just, Conan happened to be shooting in I think he was in Chicago shooting a show, and they couldn't get it together. But it was like, I just wanted to have Triumph go up to David Blaine trapped in this water tank and shit all over him. It would have been so much fun. I did get to do him a few years later. Remember when he was upside down in Central Park? If you look that one up, Triumph and David Blaine, it's a really funny one because he took breaks. He took he's up there hanging, and then he just stopped, and he would be sitting and drinking coffee and stuff. And I asked his aide, wait a minute, he's taking breaks. What's that? Well, he's taking breaks so that he can not die. Okay, I thought this was a stunt that had to do with death-defying, not death-defying, sort of uncomfortableness-defying, discomfort-defying is what that stunt was all about.
So you start Triumph as this bit on Conan, and it kind of took off. Did you expect it to take off, or did you start doing it and be like, oh, I really like doing this
It was
character?
a spin-off of a bit that I had created 4 years ago 4 years ago, Jesus, no. That was
4 years before.
4 years before. I was the original head writer of Conan's NBC show, and one of the things we wanted to do very badly was we replaced David Letterman, and we didn't want to copy anything he did because he sort of redefined late-night comedy. So our challenge was whatever he does, we'll do the opposite. And one week he had Westminster dogs running down the aisle. Just, that's it. The Westminster dogs. And he did a lot of found humor, reality-based humor. So I did this thing with these puppets that my wife had bought me. Triumph was found with these other animal puppets at a furniture store, these whimsical, realistic animal heads that I just thought were hilarious because most puppets that I'd seen before then were cartoony-looking animals. So I immediately slipped on this dog puppet at this furniture store and sniffed my wife's ass with it, and she thought it was funny. That's why we're married. And then she surprised me a few weeks later for my birthday. She bought me 7 animal heads. And then I had this idea after Letterman did his thing, let's have puppets perform at Westminster. And we'll say the animals are getting more and more talented every year. So one year we had a dog sing the theme from The Bodyguard, and then a couple of dogs did dueling banjos, and then there was a dog magician and a dog who lit his own farts over the years, and then one dog who was a Jack Nicholson impersonator, so he had a paw over his forehead, all hacky Jack Nicholson impersonator. And then finally, I called in one year. I had left the show, and I said, can we do the dog thing again? Because I want to do insult comic. And the joke is that he's terrible, and all his punchlines just end with "for me to poop on."
Oh, right.
Yeah,
That was initially the.
That was it. That was like the joke was on the puppet more than anything. It was like a one-dimensional character, but it did so well that we started bringing it back, like I said, for guests who we wanted to insult that Conan didn't want to insult. And then we did that for like 2 years, and Triumph was already like the biggest thing on Conan, but then Mike Sweeney, the head writer, said, what if he goes to Westminster, tries to, seduce all the dogs there. And then ever since then, we've been doing remotes.
But that's that you said for me to poop on. I remember that was the line, and I haven't. I just now that
I don't
had
say
to
it much
say
anymore.
but you don't say it anymore. Yeah.
I think he says it once at the beginning of the special, and that's it. I mean, yeah, he doesn't do. He's just an insult comic who happens to be a dog now.
I think we have some time for questions from the audience.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm a big fan of Conan and I'm a big fan of Triumph also.
Thank you.
My favorite Triumph appearance was the Star Wars fans.
Oh, sure.
And I was just wondering what was your most memorable and why?
I have to say, when I interviewed the Star Wars fans, it was the most fun because I think I said this earlier, they were all big fans of Triumph. And so I did feel like Don Rickles. And they were, I like it better when people want me to make fun of them. I enjoy that more. The audience doesn't necessarily. They like to see, Ted Cruz looking at Triumph with horror in his eyes. But that's the funniest one ever because I had the funniest straight men ever. And then this is one that people don't know about. I'll give it a plug, is when Triumph went to Chinatown, actually. I think it was like in 2008 or so for the Chinese New Year. And what was funny about that one was just that nobody had any fucking idea who Triumph was, and I'm talking to some people who don't even speak English. And it was a whole different experience, just people who were completely mystified. And Triumph, it was the year of the dog. That's why we did it. So he's like, this is my year. And he's going to these Chinese markets and just taking food from the baskets, taking these dried up, fish skulls or whatever, food that nobody understands what the hell people are eating this for. And he's just, my year, and he just would walk off with it. And then we just leave the camera on the mystified Chinese merchant. And he's just like, no. So that
What's the most angry anybody's ever gotten at you and Triumph? And it's so interesting because we never see you in the videos, as we shouldn't, but
Michael Jackson fans.
Really?
Yeah.
And do they ever turn on you? Because
Michael Jackson fans were crazy but very clever at the same time. So in 2005, we went to Santa Maria, California for Michael Jackson's child-molesting trial, which it's harder to joke about now since Michael Jackson died so tragically.
I'm laughing, sorry.
There you go. Well, no, I mean, in fairness, every comedian in the world practically made fun of Michael Jackson for a good 15 years because, basically, he was just, everybody basically assumed this was real and he was a child molester. And so Triumph had to go and there was, people came from all over the world in support of Michael Jackson. All over the world, and a lot of them were dressed in colorful costumes, crazy outfits, and they were furious, just furious, because they're digging in for their guy, There was one guy from Scotland who, when I would try to talk to someone, don't talk to him, don't just see, he's gonna try to take the piss out of Michael. And there was one French woman who was dressed in this bizarre harlequin dress that was covering half the sidewalk, and she wore these crazy sunglasses, and she's like, no, I don't want to talk. And I was in Triumph's like, yeah, I understand, wouldn't want to compromise your dignity, But then there's all these people, they sort of mobilized, and they figured out that there were some people who had a sense of humor about it, didn't take it that seriously, were willing to talk to me, but then all these guys, when the camera was on and they saw that I was trying to interview them, all the guys in the background started chanting, fuck, 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 in unison, because they knew that it would make my interview unusable. It was really brilliant.
Then they're also chanting "fuck, fuck, fuck" in front of the Michael Jackson courthouse, right?
But they're doing it for a good cause. Don't you see? They're defending a man who is obviously not a child molester.
From far away, if people don't see you and your cameras, they just see the people who support Michael Jackson yelling "fuck, fuck, fuck."
Yeah, but they knew that they were undermining this evil person with this dog and, with his agenda, as if nobody else in the country had cracked the code and figured out that there might be some guilt here. But fuck, fuck, fuck. They're ruining. Literally for like most of the day, I couldn't interview people, and then we had to come back an extra day, and we started wearing people out with just persistence. And we brought them lemonade. It was really hot. And we brought them suntan lotion. And they started to see that some of them started to see that we're just people just goofing around, and that it didn't matter what we said because, every comedian, like I said, was making these kind of jokes. We were just doing it, in our confrontational way.
Next question.
Hi. The TV Funhouse years of SNL are, in those years, those cartoons are probably the highlight of every episode for me.
Thank you.
And the spin-off show, too. That was great.
Oh, thanks very much.
And so I wanted to know if there would ever be a new TV Funhouse.
Show or
Any form.
Sadly, we got to write a second season of the TV Funhouse show that I was so excited about. Had great stories, and we made the characters funnier, and Louis C.K. Joined the staff. He was an old friend of mine. I'd hired him for the original Conan group. And then they just pulled the plug because the show cost too much. There was a lot of overtime in that show. That was a show that combined puppets like Triumph with live animals constantly. So, and the live animals, we didn't even ask them to do anything. It was just like, okay, our rooster is going to fight a real rooster at a cockfight, and there are a bunch of animals in the stands watching it. And all they had to do was sit there, but even that was not easy. Or we had this restaurant called Sames, where the slogan was "You eat what you are," and so we'd have these restaurant scenes where the frog is eating frog's legs, and sometimes and it's all puppets usually, like the duck puppet is eating Peking duck, and but sometimes we'd like bring in a real cow and have a burger and a milkshake in front of the cow. And this shit took a surprisingly long amount of time to shoot, even though the cow just had to fucking stand there. And so we went into a lot of overtime, and they didn't want to spend the money again.
I came across a Saturday TV Funhouse sketch recently, just sort of randomly, an old SNL episode, and it was Kazam or Kazan? Shazam,
Yes.
Excuse me,
Yes.
the genie who appears and is just psychotic.
A sadistic genie. Well, it was actually based. That was like, I didn't do a lot of parody cartoons on SNL, like direct parodies, but that was an exception. It was, there was a cartoon in the 60s called Shazam or Shazam, and it was about a genie who helped these two kids, and he would defeat enemies, and he was a giant genie, and he would just sort of swat people and go, ah, ha, 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 and he'd make one of those kind of cracks, like a Schwarzenegger 80s kind of cracks, like, want to go for a flight, or not, something that bad, actually, and he would just fling someone. Anyway, so that cartoon was just, it would start the same way, but then the genie would get incredibly sadistic.
Yeah. He cuts off the skin off of someone's chest and says, "Give me some skin."
Yeah, exactly.
But then
making bad puns all the way.
And the little kids are sitting there going, "I think he's had enough."
Yeah, the kids. First they're like, "Go Shazam," and then they're just, "All right, I think he really is dead now. I think you can stop, Shazam."
He goes so far as to cut him up, eat him, poop him out, and then have a cow.
Louis helped me write this. Yes.
That's what I mean. I saw
Yes.
Louis C.K.'s and Dino
Yes.
Stephanopoulos'
Yes.
names were in the credits.
Yes.
And how many of those did you write with those guys? Were they part of the TV Funhouse things that you were doing on
No,
SNL?
nobody. That was actually, I might have come up with that idea while I was doing that second season. And that's why Louis and Dino would have been, because they never, like every now and then I would call one of them, tell them an idea, and if they threw in a joke or two, I would add it to the list of writer credits. And that was a situation like that. But in that case, we were actually writing the second season of TV Funhouse, and I love that idea so much I put it on SNL. Yeah.
Now there hasn't been like a Saturday TV Funhouse on SNL
since. Yeah, been like 4 years. The last one I did was I'd already left the show. I did a live action.
The John Hamm one, right?
John Hamm and Jimmy Fallon played live action, ambiguously gay duo.
Right.
And it was sort of remnants of a script I had written with Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert is the voice of Ace, the original Ace, and Ace and Gary. Gary was Steve Carell because this cartoon was started on the Dana Carvey variety show, and Stephen and Steve were in the ensemble. So I did a cartoon there and cast them, and then they ended up continuing doing it all through Saturday Night Live, even when they became giant stars. But this is already, but in 2005, before Stephen Colbert became a real superstar, before his show, he took this gig with me. Jim Carrey wanted to do an Ace and Gary movie, so we wrote an entire script. And it's a really funny script, but Jim ended up he had two managers, and one manager was like, this is great, you should do it. And the other manager was like, you're like 44, you got to transition into that Tom Hanks thing. Mm-hmm. Do not stuff your codpiece at this age or whatever.
I think we have time for one more question.
All right.
Hey, Robert, thanks for coming to share with us today.
My pleasure.
Love your work, love
Thanks.
Triumph.
Thank you.
But my question is really for Triumph. Will Triumph be endorsing the very best candidate for president
for
us
him
to poop
on? That's sort of more of a statement than a question, I think. No, I don't. No, like I said, Triumph can't poop on one side of the street or the other. He's got to stay right in the middle. Otherwise, it takes the fun out of it.
Can I recommend pooping on Cruz, though? It's such a poopable thing.
Oh, I think I was harder on Cruz than almost anybody.
So. Well, Mike Huckabee, I mean.
No, but that was like, he got to take it to his face. And then Chris Christie takes a lot of fat abuse in the show. And here's a weird thing. Has anybody seen that Chris Christie scene by any chance? We do a scene with Chris Christie where, here was the premise. Chris Christie, a lot of these guys do meet and greets at restaurants. So Chris Christie was going to be, the premise is he's going to be at this diner doing a meet and greet. So Triumph goes in with a couple of serious Republican-looking guys, and it's like, I'm the advanced team. We're Chris Christie's advanced team. We have to make sure everything's set for, everything's in order. And then they like walk around, and it's like, all right, when he's making his speech, there can be no food in his line of sight, or he will literally run across the room and grab it. He'll lose all focus, And then there's like a pie tray, this is right here out in the open? What, did Marco Rubio plant this? This is dirty politics. They chain it up, and it's like, is this glass, could we get thicker glass? And he's like, trust me. One time, Christie put his fist through, he was in an airplane, he put his fist through the airplane window because he thought the clouds were cotton candy. It's like and it just goes way out of control. He goes to the bathroom, and it's like, we have to test the toilet. And he like throws it to see if it can handle Christie. And his staffers throw in 3 whole chickens, one at a time, and then 1 baked potato. And then they flush it to see if it can handle Chris. And then we do all these jokes, way too many fat jokes, but that's why it was funny. And the truth of the matter is, we did not have an ending because we had staged this. He had been to this diner like a month before. We couldn't coordinate where he was actually going to be there after. So we figured we'll use the footage of the diner appearance that he had a month ago and pretend that we were there before that. So we do this whole thing. The diner people are cool with it. And then we're sitting in the back trying to think of an ending. And then the manager comes in and says, Christie's here. It happened to be the day of the New Jersey storm. And this was the airport diner in Manchester, New Hampshire. And it was the day Christie had to leave his campaign in New Hampshire to go back to New Jersey. But before he left the campaign, he was going to comfort himself with a milkshake. Thankfully, at the diner right near the airport. It was like the greatest day of our lives.
Well, there's the.
Chris Christie is really there.
There's a
we had our ending, and so sorry.
No. I was just saying there's a great shot when you're
Yes.
walking out.
So then, not only is he there, but then the manager says he's in the bathroom. So we get this shot of Triumph being told he's in the bathroom, and then just waiting for Christie, and we see Christie. So Triumph's in the foreground with the giggling manager. The door is right here, and then we're just waiting and like, and then suddenly he comes out and he doesn't have a jacket, so he's just got the pants that go up to here and the short cut off, and he's just like gives us a. And we're just giggling in the foreground, and then there's a whole sequence where Triumph's like, as a reporter, it's my responsibility to smell that bathroom, you know. And then he goes in there and he acts like Anderson Cooper at a hurricane in North Carolina or something. He treats it like he's a brave reporter.
But as you guys are leaving,
that was our ending.
As you're leaving the diner, there's another shot of.
Oh yeah,
and it looks like no,
there's some miraculous. So then we leave the diner because we got our joke. But Chris Christie's like right in the booth here with his milkshake. And like, I didn't want to confront him because I liked the idea that we just sort of put one past him. So Triumph's just like, hey, just passing through. No comedy over here. Nobody's fat. And that was it. And then I did talk to him afterward.
Did you really?
Yeah, because I felt like, I don't know, I just wanted to meet him, I guess.
And did he know who Triumph is and all that?
No, he didn't. He had no idea who Triumph was. I said, so what are you guys doing here? And I said, oh, just nonsense. You don't want to know about it. But, yeah, that was just an amazing stroke of luck.
Well, the whole special is amazing.
If you like fat jokes.
Robert,
fat jokes.
So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
The special is on Hulu right now.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
On Hulu. And it's also, you can get a free link if you go to Triumph's Twitter page, Triumph ICDHQ. There's actually a free link to it. You don't have to even, I don't know if they want me to say this. No, they did it on purpose. They actually want as many people to see this as possible. So they've actually created a free link that's available on Triumph's Triumph ICDHQ. You
don't have to be a Hulu member.
Yeah, you don't. Okay. You just click this link and you can watch the whole special.
Absolutely. Robert, thank you so much.